everybody, welcome back to another Raising Vibrations video. And today I'm going to be talking about a subject that I truly love to share with my students in the beginner's course and the metamorphosis programs that I run, etc. And just basically passionately love pouring out the way that this perception and progress of humanity's consciousness is evolving. So specifically what I'm talking about is the collective mutation that is taking place for us right now. The mutation in itself is not necessarily something that is only reserved for specific periods in our conscious awakening experience, but it is something that does have more active periods than there are, say, for instance, just periods of consistency. Okay. Now, to give you an idea of the context of where my mind is actually at and my space is actually at and where I'm exploring right now with inside of myself, is I'm talking on a galactic level, okay? By galactic, I simply mean we're going outside the framework of where your job is, your house, Earth, and I'm going out into the collective field and farther away, leaving our solar system, okay, and observing space in this place where the nature of spirit is manifesting itself, the understanding of what this whole entire ride is about. Now, in the Aquarius full moon video, I realized that there needs to be a little bit of a disclaimer on the videos that I create, and I generally take this as this is accepted by everybody, or understood by everybody, but I should basically be sharing it first. What I'm about to share from you and what I'm talking about is the perspective from this ride, from this like shield of perspective that is my journey, okay? And that's all I can offer you. So it doesn't necessarily mean that what it is that I am delivering to you and sharing with you is the totality of the truth. It can only be a perspective of it. But if it resonates, then that's something that can in some way, shape, or form work with you. I don't know how that works, but the purpose of me sharing this information is awakening our relationship to our consciousness and our awareness far beyond the physical boundaries that we have spent our times being conditioned to think that this is what we are. So it's like truly opening up and seeing creative potential, truly opening up and understanding what the body is. Okay. Yes, it carries with it a lot of trauma. Yes, it carries with it a lot of energetic disturbances within its fields, etc. Yes, it has all these things that I've spoken about in the past, like for instance, the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex and getting really into that stuff. But it's multi-dimensional function for every single one of you that is watching this video right now is here as a transmutative vehicle. That is what is available for us. Okay. Now, I think that we've been spending quite a lot of time doing videos with each other and talking, and you've been, so this is not, again, new information. And I haven't said, there are many other people that are doing the same thing as me. I suppose what I'm really trying to say here through my experience is watch how the collective's potential for awakening the true understanding of what this body is about is now available for us. And it's a lot more easier to get on that ride. Although I am warning you that that ride in itself might not necessarily be candy floss popcorn and, just going around the carousel saying, hey, this is fantastic. In fact, it's probably the opposite. And maybe there needs to be a disclaimer saying, if you get on over here, you've taken the red pill, you see what reality is, good luck with that. Because that's how I honestly feel. And I suppose maybe that's why Raising Vibrations exists, because it really is this person sitting over here delivering a frequency and saying, look, this reality, this experience, this whatever it is bizarre. It's a phenomena. It's weird. It's insane. It's up and it's down sometimes. And I suppose the best that we can really do in this experience is respond to it how we think we should be responding to it, or how we feel we should be responding to it. So from my perspective, what I'm seeing is the mutation of collective consciousness, the mutation of our spiritual activation. But I even hate using the word spiritual, because it cuts this kind of new age nuance to it. Whereas really I'm just talking about what is. And that is that we are a bioform. Okay, we are an organism that is interfacing with life itself. Life is existing on its own. It's not going, oh, look, here's a bunch of human beings that have given themselves this ego definition of special destiny, and now all of a sudden they have special rights. And I know that might be a little difficult to swallow, but it's the truth. If we had to start interacting with life in a way where we were showing it that we were destructive, it would just go, oh, okay, well, that seems to be your blueprint, and this is what you're, clearly doing with yourself at this stage. So, well, good luck with that. And here's a way to kind of do it over there. And then eventually probably not on this planet, because this is a place of growth and thriving. And I think that that's what's probably the most difficult thing for us to accept as human beings, especially from the ego and the conditioned mind perspective, is that we each feel that there is this deep inner innate feeling of special destiny that we carry. And I probably lose half of you right now in terms of subscribers, because I'm straight through the ego and saying the special destiny that we have as a human race is the realization that we are an experiment and part of something far greater than what the human ego/mind could even consider. And that the only thing that can truly be real for us in terms of special destiny is just coming here to watch this whole play out, experience things, understand the karmic dynamics that are taking place between us, aka the natural law when energy is being moved from left to right, and how that responds. And can you feel positive about it, or connected to the experience, or separated from it? Okay, everything else from a mental perspective of why we think we're here and all that type of stuff is, from my perspective, insanity. Because the world outside, if you had to take a look at it, would show otherwise to what I'm talking about. And I suppose the balancing point around the madness that I'm sharing with you here in terms of this video, and especially around the collective mutation. And this is an expression that I'm sharing with you because I see it and I'm watching it happen. And this rant that I'm on right now is more along the lines of just getting in touch with something that's really real, so that we can get the idea and the experience of the collective mutation. Okay, so if I bring it back to a place of where everything I appear makes sense, is that the groundwork, the framework for your relationship to what you are as a human being is consciousness, spirit into matter, okay? And that the matter is the physical material plane that exists, and then we have consciousness, which doesn't exist on the dimensions, that doesn't obey the framework of the material plane unless it's in the material plane. Therefore, then it is operating through material plane laws. But in terms of the natural flow and fluidity of how it exists outside the material plane, it doesn't do anything. It's all fractal. It's all sort of like just moving in movements that the mind cannot conceive or grasp. And this is Pisces, right? So the only thing that we do have is a guy sitting in front of your what's really happening here is that I'm capturing myself on the equipment here, and you're watching me, but what you're really actually on the most deepest level doing is responding to the tones and vibrations and frequencies that are vibrating off myself, and then the mental definitions that you have relative to what you have experienced in your life and things that you've read, etc. That's what your mental process is attaching itself to and saying, oh, okay, I get what he's saying because really I understand, I have his language. That's where language comes from, that capacity to really put words to the phenomena of frequencies. So the truth of it is that that's where we are. That is the truth of ourselves. In the multidimensional complexity of ourselves, we are human beings in a bioform, and we are also consciousness experiencing an awakened state within this bioform. But the disconnect between that relationship is what awakening is about, is the realization of that process and then going about your day interfacing with those two dynamics or mechanics, okay? So from that orientation, now we're looking at it from this perspective of what it is that this thing is. Then we can start to look at the astrology chart or the relationship to yourself or the dynamics of this existence, etc., and also the collective mutation of the human race on this planet right now, and get a really, really deep sense of identification of how your role is being played out in this collective experience and how your individuated state is reflecting to us in a very beautiful way the diversity of all the different frequencies and vibrations that exist in colored form. That's why I used the picture of the butterfly and the most beautiful colored form expression, because your fullest expression is when you are vibrating through the color scheme and everybody sees you light up, right? That's why the most simplest way to know if you're on the right path or on the wrong path in terms of if you want to look at your reality through that lens, firstly, is are you animated or are you not? If you're not animated, something's wrong. Or let me take the words out over there and let's say off balance. Okay, you're not on your full capacity. But if you're animated, you're on your full capacity, completely and utterly integrated into the experience. And you can notice it with me, particularly when you watch the videos and this type of energy starts to come out of me. You can start to see that I'm incarnating all of the 12 sort of whatever it is that I exist with inside of myself and I'm connected to it, and the energy's strong, right? So that's the scope. That's where I'm looking at this perspective from, okay? And then when we see this from this place and we're looking at it through this telescope, this information now that I'm going to share with you then starts to make a little bit more sense, okay? Now, there are many schools of thought out there that have a way of measuring the human experience, okay? Now, for me personally right now, I use evolutionary astrology, okay? And evolutionary astrology's paradigm and scope looks at the mutative process of the collective consciousness of the planet through what is called planetary south nodes, okay? Planetary south and north nodes. Now, for any of us to really get in touch with planetary south and north nodes, we first have to get in touch with what is the planetary south node, north node experience. And very simply put, we all have looked at the axis between the south node and the north node in our birth chart, okay? We all know that the south node and the north node are two abstract points relative to where the sun and the moon cross the ecliptic relative to their own orbits and where those interface, okay? And so we also then need to look at a third trajectory. We need to look at a third element to understanding nodal axes, okay? And the reason why that's the case is because the south node will represent consciousness moving from, the north node will represent consciousness and its trajectory, and then we will see the planet itself. So in this particular instance case, the moon itself is the interface between south node and north node, aka south node of the moon, north node of the moon. Okay. Now the question becomes, why do we use the south and north node of the moon to identify when we could be using the south node of Pluto and the north node of Pluto, etc.? Well, simply put, to identify the south node of the moon and the north node of the moon from a karmic perspective and from a mental place, or at least this part over here, it's something we live on a day-to-day basis. It's the self-identity that we carry. So the moon is the interface between south node and north node, between the abstract spaces. And when you look at the moon in the birth chart, it is how you are actually navigating yourself in each moment and how the trajectory of the north node and its geometry is operating, right? So what is the direction or what is coming to you? Either way, right? Depends on how you look at it. So when you have planetary south nodes of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, then what we're dealing with here is a much larger relationship, okay, to the nodes of the moon. yet still fundamentally saying the same thing, just the context and archetypal description has a different, you know, orientation to what it symbolizes, but it still is effectively the same thing, okay? So, collective mutation. Collective meaning the whole entire vibration of the planet. Now, because we are living in a time where the capacity for us to have no boundaries between each other from the internet's perspective and how fast information travels, we get influenced by, or we have the ripples of the effects impulse us faster. Okay, it doesn't mean that if you're living on the Andes mountain, for instance, that and you're not connected to Twitter or Facebook, that you will know that there will be an event taking place as fast as, say, somebody that's on the phone going, oh my God, there's a Paris attack, and that happened like 3 seconds ago. Do you see the difference in the contrast over here? Yeah. So there is this huge contrast, and I'm acknowledging the process. So what we're dealing with is, for me and you that are sitting here, it's relevant for us because we are connected to the spread of how information and how the collective consciousness and field actually distributes information, right? So when new and full moons happen, there's a variety of astrologers out there that will share their perspectives on what they feel is happening. And you can sit there watching 4 of those perspectives within an hour. And that gives you the instant capacity to connect to that person's world, that person's world, that person's world, that person's world within an hour. Yet, if we were living in the 1800s and everybody was sending out letters, that could have been a joke, right? How did new and full moon forecasts be done at that stage? Every astrologer was writing down little things and then sending it. Now, because I got Pluto conjunct Mercury, it feels like I was one of those messengers. And that's why maybe I have this connection to Astro that some of you guys don't and go, oh, you know, why does he talk about Astro this way? It's maybe because I've read all of those scripts from those astrologers, learned while I've been on the journey, you know, waiting 5 days to get to a different country to say, hey, I'm delivering your oh, Jesus. Anyway, okay, so coming back to the seriousness of the conversation over here, and maybe it's my own consciousness, but there are probably a couple of souls out there that are going, oh, you know, I just want a serious conversation, and I can't, or not anymore. I've lost that part of myself where I feel like it has to be so serious all the time, but it's cool to watch. It's cool to watch the collective consciousness evolve, yet at the same time, it's completely insane to think that there is actually a way that you can influence it from your own energetic field. It has to be an entire bioform, aka a whole entire country that moves the energy that is equal to the collective's need for shifting. So that's why, for instance, the more subscribers you have on your YouTube channel, for instance, or the more followers you have on your Facebook fan page, as an example, is impactful when your message is being delivered, because a larger majority of people are actually absorbing that information. Therefore, the collective is fast, you know, speeding up faster. You understand how this process works. So that's what I mean by that. Which essentially is then one person actually having an effect of that magnitude, but carried by the collective. I don't know why I need to clarify that stuff. So if it is relevant, thank you. But if it isn't, please write in the comments below and say, look, dude. But coming back to what I'm talking about, right? The collective mutation. And I'm going to go over to a slide right now in terms of the south nodes and north nodes of Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, etc., and show you how this is actually mutating for us, how we as an energetic vibrational essence, we are energetic beings that has physical form, right? We know this. I've shared this with you in many other videos regarding electricity and Uranus and the electrical field. And whenever you purchase something, for instance, you use a card, and that card has a magnetic strip. And when you put your electricity into the card holder and you use the magnetic strip, the card capturer takes magnetic energy off you through, or takes energy off you through magnetics. And that's how you exchange energy when it comes to purchasing stuff, right? And now we live in an digital age where we get most of our stuff off the internet anyway. So it's just a basic energy exchange that's consistently taking place. And so energy, money in itself in physical form has disappeared as we've transcended out of those vibrational states, yet energy exchange still exists. So that is a mutation. That is a collective mutation. It is the way that now we are forming a new relationship to the way that we operate as a collective, how the laws and regulations and rules and belief systems are adjusting themselves in accordance with what is absolutely necessary for us right now. And each generation has a specific role to play in that process. So for me, Pluto and Libras, right? And you guys are getting a video really shortly explaining to you what is the healing format that is absolutely necessary for you as a Pluto Libra generation. I've done it for all of the others, but I haven't really fine-tuned that video out yet, but now I've got it. So Pluto and Libras are doing a certain thing. Pluto and Virgos, you're doing a certain thing. And that whole entire collective module of consciousness is being funneled through and evolved through the prism, okay, of the framework that we as human beings are existing through, the color, right? So the spectrum that we see. And our form, our biological form, is adjusting in accordance with this new way of relating to ourselves. And for us right now, many of us the nervous system is highly, like it's losing its plot because we're going through such a huge energy upgrade. And it has to adjust it. And I feel like this could take a while until we start developing bioforms that can accept the new energy that's on the planet at this stage. And that's fascinating to watch as well. How are you interacting with that whole entire web of collective mutation that's taking place? I know definitely for me personally, I've watched it manifest at least over the last 8 months, and probably for you as you've watched these videos as well, seen that process. So I'm going to go back to the chart itself because I would like to highlight some stuff for you guys, and I'll see you now. So collective mutation, right? Now, mutation in itself is the form of one thing moving into another form. Now, our bioform itself, the physical body in itself, is adjusting itself to new ways of being. And again, this is only relative to the collective that is operating through this dimension. Okay? So, collective mutation. Now, what I've done for everybody at this point in time, and I'll just get my little highlighter, is I have Pluto. Okay, this is where Pluto is today. Okay, Pluto is retrograde, as everybody knows, and Pluto is also 15 degrees in Capricorn, right? Now, you can see here as well that there is there's an S, and then there's the sign Pluto. There is an S, and then there is the sign Saturn, and there is an S, and that is the sign Jupiter, okay? Now, for every single person that is on the planet today, in some way, shape, or form, okay, you carry with you energetic imprints of these symbols that I've just referenced right now. Okay, Jupiter is all about the belief system, the structure, the social beliefs, and ways that we justify the reality that we exist within. This is the right brain experience. Okay, and so this is the way that we, like I said, the belief systems, our cosmology. And then we've got Saturn that sits there. And Saturn is also in Capricorn. And Saturn, again, is the structural form in which we exist within. Okay, so we've got Jupiter, which is the cosmology, and we've got Saturn, which is the structure. And they're all in Capricorn. So where do you think we have manifested patriarchy from? Where do you think the oppression of humanity has come from? Capricorn is all about limitation. Capricorn is all about the structural form that we exist within. So if the structure and laws and boundaries that we as human beings have been evolving through has been through Saturn, and that's in Capricorn, and we've got Jupiter there as well, can you see that our belief systems have been through this deep thing of build, create, Capricorn, right? But also suppress, dominate, control, right? There it is. So this is now, we're dealing with almost 6,000 years of these archetypal structures. So we all have lived lifetimes under these states of consciousness. And when you understand the nature of form itself, we're consistently in the structure that reinforces to us reality, because what we do is we just go through life doing the same thing over and over and saying the same truths over and over and over until eventually Uranus comes along and says, look, wake up, and then we do. Right? So if you look back at the history, if you look back at the natural existence of our planet and the structural form and the darkness that we're experiencing, we've got those two things there, right? This is religion, etc. And then we've got Pluto. Pluto is situated at 19 degrees Capricorn, the south node of Pluto. This is a big deal for us, right? The south node is the natural desire, or should I say in this particular instance, the Pluto desire is the natural desire of our soul's collective evolution evolving through Capricorn. So here we have this whole entire collective experience that we as human beings have identified with ourselves for. And now you've got the transit of Pluto today, as it is today, moving through those signs. And we know that Pluto is transformative. We know that Pluto is mutative. So of course, every single fiber of your energetic being that has been rooted in experiences of the past relative to these symbols I've just explained is going to come all the way to the surface. And Pluto is going to shake it all up. And so we are in the middle, literally, of this reconstruction of everything relative to how we desire to live as a collective race, the belief systems and cosmologies that we use to validate ourselves and say that we exist as a race, and also the structural form that we exist within. So 4 years ago, or let's say pre-2008, everybody had a business and they had a local shop. And now you're living in 2016 and everybody that wants to individuate themselves just gets a website and says, hey, I'm open for trading. There's no rent. Do you see the mutative process that is taking place from a collective experience relative to Pluto through Capricorn? And it doesn't just begin there. It's not like that's when it began. It's just that the intensity of this mutation process has reached a peak where we are now really, really in that stuff, which is why the most radical change is occurring for us right now. Do you see this process? It's pretty neat, isn't it? Now, here's another thing that I want to show you. South node of the symbol Neptune, situated in Aquarius. Now, earlier in the video, I referenced our collective relationship to this deep feeling of there's a special destiny for all of us. And, really, truthfully speaking, there's a deep feeling of self-validation that has been wounded because of our own darkness. And that we go around, like for people that I know, that need to validate themselves through the work that they do because their parents never said to them, hey, you know what? You're my child, I love you, etc. And I love the fact that you're, playing with your toy over there and you got happy when you showed me your toy. There are some people that don't have that. And we all are seeking through the manipulation of Hollywood to be able to achieve success in life. And yet the distortion of success is so incredibly, that I don't even know where to begin in terms of explaining how badly our perception of success has been manipulated because of that stuff. Everybody's chasing it. Everybody. Even up to a certain point in time before I understood deeply what was going on, myself. And, the next process apart from that is just accepting the fact that that's where you were and you just forgive yourself and say, okay, now I know what my real ride is about and not the one that's been influenced by social conditioning. So the south node of Neptune situated here in Aquarius and the north node of Neptune situated in Leo is the balancing polarity point regarding our spiritualization. Consciousness is evolving itself through unique individuated states. So now we are on a planet at this point in time that is awakening to its structural form being mutated. We're all reshaping ourselves in different ways and identifying ourselves in different ways. And if we really pay attention to this process, you'll see how it mutates itself over a period of time. But when you look at the south node of Neptune in Aquarius, it's saying the spiritualization of our consciousness is going through individuality. And to be quite honest, I feel like all of us have in some way, shape or form no idea what our true authentic individuality is like because we haven't had the capacity in our past to be able to live it because the social structures, norms and ways of being have been so anti-individuated process that even the idea of individuation itself is still homogenized. It's still sort of like put into a bracket and said that's what individuality is. Whereas I feel like it's so much more complex than that. Okay, even the fact of use of time in itself is still a framework in which your individuation cannot be fully expressed because, if you're somebody like myself that actually works better at night than is day, which many of you might have, and that the individuation process is I process food at 4 o'clock in the morning. But if I'm living in a lifestyle where it says that you got to eat at this point in time, how am I ever supposed to know what my true sense of processing of food is like if I'm never given the opportunity to do it? Because the society says if you don't wake up at this point in time and get this type of job, then you won't survive, and you can't really, go to work tired because you've been up at 4 saying I'm eating my bowl of cereal. It's like the madness here is so insane that we prefer to just blanket and ignore it and disassociate and say, well, it's better just to follow this road and do whatever. So the trauma that we carry as an individual, as a race that has individual journeys that has been suppressed because of the belief systems and control and domination on our philosophies, that it's like it's so far. The contrast is stark. And when we do live those very fractured, individuated lives, even then we don't even know how that's properly looking like, because we don't have any other people to say, hey, it kind of, this is this trip, this is this journey, this is this experience. So the full moon in Aquarius was really trying to capture this essence with everybody today and say, look, we've got to try to figure out what that uniqueness is about. And we owe it to ourselves to begin to morph and mutate ourselves in a way where we understand this process, you know? And Pluto will be transiting through Aquarius at some point. Now, the final thing that I wanted to share regarding this picture that you see here is Mars and Saturn. This is a connection where I drew this chart today. This is where the planets are today. They're on the south node of Uranus. Look at those two planets. Look where Saturn is. Saturn south node, Saturn there. So what do you think is happening to us in terms of the context of our existence on the planet right now? The south node of Uranus is situated in Aquarius. The ruler of Neptune is Uranus. So the trauma around the individuated sense of who we are is the south node of Uranus, right? So we've got collective tribes, these type of people that do this, that type of people that do that. This is what resonates, this what doesn't. And we kind of just separate and say, hey, that's your experience and fantastic with that and share it if you want. But other than that, that's where it should stay. But because we have this hangover of experiences on our planet regarding the suppression of our identity and our natural ways, we're so out of touch with that process that for us to even begin thinking about how that's going to work means getting in touch with the body, which is the creative intelligence that is here available for us in each moment, versus the mental construction. So with this conjunction that took place recently with Mars and Saturn, that is taking place on that south node over here, and that was part of this full moon, is not just like, you know, this average thing that happens on a daily basis. This is huge. This is massive. And I'm sure that every single one of you at some point felt this collective shift within yourself. And I think that was the point. That was the point of this video being timed at the stage, because I didn't capture it as well as I wanted to in the full moon video. But this is it. This is what I'm talking about. The whole entire bioform of ourselves is shaping in a way that has never been done before. And if we keep on looking at the past to recreate ourselves, to get to the golden gates of Gaia's new age, Jesus, like, let's just get a paper bag and throw up, because that's not what we're doing here. We are in an experimental phase of discovering something that has never ever been explored before. That's the point. It's good to feel unknown. It's good to feel vulnerable. It's good to feel like you don't have your stuff together, because it means that you're in the right place, saying, I am letting go and just allowing this mutation process to consume me, so that wherever I'm supposed to be going is exactly in accordance with what I intended to do before I came to this planet. Very, very powerful stuff there. And I suppose that's where I kind of leave this message for everybody today, in terms of the intensity. I don't want to lose it in that sense. So I'm going to end it there. And I really, really, really would love to hear you guys' comments around what I've shared with you today. And, you know, add some of your own stuff towards what I'm sharing and your own experiences. And I would love to really get a community of souls like you've done on the new and full moons to talk about this stuff. Okay. That's it. Thanks very much, guys. Have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye-bye.